So when you have a movie like The Hustle with a really fun premise and a really good cast and serving as a reboot to a couple great movies, not to mention a Broadway show, who have proven that this story can work on many levels, it pains me to say that after this film was done, I was left there thinking, is that the best you could come up with? Seriously? It's almost sweet irony to say that I was cheated out of what could have been a fun movie experience because for a film about two con women whose talent is to pull the rug out from other people and screw them over, I guess it's only fitting that I too felt screwed over and conned into thinking I was going to see a good movie. And it hurts me to say that because I was pumped for this movie. I love Anne Hathaway, I enjoy Rebel Wilson, and I enjoy Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. First, I'll start with the positives because there are a couple things that I did like. The best thing about this movie was Anne Hathaway. Now, we've seen her tackle character roles that are meant to be played a bit over the top, similar to her roles in Get Smart and Ocean's 8 specifically, and this role in The Hustle is no exception. And she's able to pull this off by giving it her all and exploiting the shit out of the role. Maybe it's meant to be a bit over the top, especially with that super posh British accent that she has in the film, but it's a seamlessly perfect blend of campiness, charisma, and comedic timing that Anne Hathaway has that makes this role commanding and fun to watch, even if the movie surrounding her is a mess. And the only other thing I liked about the movie was the on-screen chemistry between Hathaway and Wilson. Despite the problems, I still enjoyed the film the most when they were working off of each other. Now, if only they had a better story to work with. I will give a shout out to a couple of the jokes. There were a few genuinely funny moments, but most of the best ones we've already seen in the trailer. Now let's ultimately talk about what didn't work in the movie, and first and foremost, I have to give it to the script. I found the humor and dialogue very bland a lot of the time, and I felt it kept going downhill as the film progressed, especially in the last half, where the writing was at its laziest and most uninspired, and not the least bit clever. Rebel Wilson did a good job acting opposite Anne Hathaway, and she did have a few scenes that were pretty amusing and funny, but after a while you really start to feel that she's a very one-note comedy actress, and her jokes tend to blend together after a while. She essentially plays the same Fat Amy role in almost all of her movies, and I only forgive this when she's given legit funny material, but there was nothing inspired or fresh about this role that has me singing her praises, despite a couple good bits here and there. The story and overall pacing had a lot of serious problems, and I felt they focused heavily on the wrong areas. There were parts of the story that I felt were more entertaining and relevant that were rushed. Now, for example, in the trailer, we see Anne Hathaway training Rebel Wilson to be a good con woman through various ridiculous exercises and scenarios. And they basically show that entire sequence in the trailer without hardly anything new to show in the actual movie. It's quick and short, and that was arguably one of the most entertaining parts of the film, and I definitely would have liked more of those kind of scenes between them. Another huge problem is the so-called twist in the last act that many will already predict, especially if you've seen the other films based on this story, but I felt the movie focused too much on this other element and less on the dynamic between Hathaway and Wilson. I needed to see more of them and their antics between each other, and I could care less about any other new characters introduced. But sadly, the film strayed away and went off on this new plot development, which was significantly less interesting than their antics together. Not to mention that the dialogue and the writing for the last act kept getting worse and worse, and it completely went off the rails. It was a boner killer of an ending, to say the least. The Hustle could have been so much more fun than it was, and even though Anne Hathaway brings her best and works well off of Rebel Wilson, and the two do share a couple really, pretty funny scenes together, the uninspired script and the lackluster comedy ultimately drags the film down and prohibits it from reaching its true potential. I'm going to give The Hustle a D+. And that's my review for you. I'm curious to know your thoughts and feelings about the movie. Feel free to share them down below. And thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Ryan Boehme, signing off. Bye, everyone.